Good morning! Welcome to SJU, the Rise of the Snark. Spencer Gilbert is back with us this week, and we're so happy to have him.
gracing us with her presence.
I'm here too, as it turns out, and Joe Starr, Dan Murrell.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all here, and why? Because we have a lot to talk about today. We have so many Star Wars to discuss.
If you're looking for Fan Friday, wait a week.
This is it. Well, no, this is Fan Friday
This
because
is a real Fan Friday.
we're fans of these things, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about all of the Disney news that was revealed yesterday about Disney Plus and the, I would say, warning shot, except that it's a headshot they delivered with their price point to every other streaming service. But first, we got to talk about that trailer for Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, which is the title, which was revealed as well. Everything we think about that and all of the Star Wars news is from the panel. First and foremost, I really liked it. They know how to cut a trailer. It's really, really good. There's going to be more discussion on that, but I just want that noted.
Yes.
Dan Murrell.
They do know how to cut a trailer. It looks very exciting, very cool, very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
I clapped when I saw it.
I clapped when I saw it.
And they rolled it again. The Emperor called her
again. Yeah. Yes, but not but. An injunction to. Yes, it looks really cool. However, also, and I said this on Twitter, and some people said, like, did you miss the point? I disagree. It is. I can't imagine a take that would be more 180 degrees diametrically opposed than what happened in The Last Jedi. And I know, because people have been telling me, I know they're like, well, you obviously missed the message of the movie, because the whole Kill the Past was Kylo Ren's thing, and blah, blah, and I get that.
Yeah.
But you cannot tell me that Rian Johnson's philosophy behind The Last Jedi was subversion of, he said it, subversion of expectations. This isn't about Skywalkers and whatever. This is about, this is about, as Daenerys would say, breaking the wheel.
Yeah, we could break the wheel.
That was the philosophy behind. I know that there are different villains and characters that said, but I just mean philosophically.
Yeah.
Sure. That was Rian Johnson's approach to Last Jedi, and this one is just about the Emperor's back, Lando's back, Skywalker. Who's a Skywalker? You thought it was nobody, but it might be somebody.
It's new droid Dio Skywalker.
It feels completely the other side of what Last Jedi was doing.
Dan, it's not only a Skywalker, it's 1,000 generations of Skywalkers rolled into one human being and the Death Star. So if you guys noticed in the last shot, as they were walking through the sands, they were heading towards the Death Star Mountain.
Death Star Mountain?
Yeah.
It looked like a Disney.
It basically looks like if Disney made a ride of the Death Star, and then you hear the Emperor laughing in the background, which I already have a fan theory for us. It's my theory. I'm the fan. But I want to talk about it. But first, I want to hear from Joe Starr and Spencer Gilbert.
Yeah, it looks great. I don't think there's ever been any question that they know how to put out a piece of marketing. I would be loath to predict too much about the movie based on what we saw. Granted, it is a conclusion to 9 films, and clearly Luke will feature in some form or another in this. But they're good at misdirecting you. You know, I wouldn't take Sheev's laugh as something more than like a
That's just rad.
more than a flashback or a Force Ghost. Same thing with Luke, because put The Last Jedi and all this stuff aside. Like, I still don't feel like I really know any of the new characters they introduced. Like, I don't feel like there's been enough time spent with them to really pay off their arcs. So if they just sideline Rey and Poe and Finn and just do Luke versus the Emperor again, I don't think that's what the movie's going to be.
Rey and Finn and Poe against the Emperor.
So I don't think that's what it's going to be. I actually don't. I have a theory about the Emperor laugh. Are you ready for my theory, or I want you to weigh in first?
Sure, I'll weigh in. First of all, I'm very, after yesterday's snafu where I noted that Disney had not gotten in the car payment on my Camaro, they took care of the snafu, so I'm happy to talk positively about Disney.
Oh, good, yeah.
Thank you guys for handling that. I appreciate it. It was very stressful. The interesting thing to me about Episode 9 is, Abrams, he did Force Awakens, he had his outline, he had his direction, he had his vision. Then it goes to someone completely different, who zigs where you might have zagged, who chooses B where you might have chosen A. And I really love I think adversity and obstacles and challenges to the creative process are what make truly creative things. So we'll obviously never get to do a sit down, step by step, go through Abrams' page and get every ounce of decision making. But it's what I'll be fascinated to always know is, like, in terms of rising up to the challenge of what Last Jedi did, in terms of challenging what J.J. Abrams sort of wanted to do with the entire trilogy, how did it affect his direction? Were there moments where Rian Johnson did something where he went, you know what? Maybe my poop stank a little bit on my initial idea, and he helped improve an idea or help refine something, took it this way in a more interesting direction than maybe I initially thought. I'd be really fascinated to be able to just sit down and see and hear that. Like,
Where's
how,
his Journal of the Willis?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's. Look, we said this.
It's the Wills.
We said this. I think in the review.
It's not Bruce Willis.
Is it? Did I add the is?
You did.
You
It's
did
the
add
Journal of
the
the Will.
Yeah.
I want the reveal of
Yeah.
all of Star Wars to be it's Bruce Willis.
Yes.
That's quite the saga.
Well, if you want an evil emperor,
Come to Canto Bide.
That
Have a few
reminds me of when I was a
laughs.
street cop.
Yeah.
It's the Die Hard prequel.
Who
gives a shit
about Bossness?
and the emperor's goals the entire time is more crap in his rider.
You think Palpatine's back? Okay.
It's the Journal of the Willis.
God.
That's the last shot. It's Bruce Willis closing a
Name
book.
it now. The Journal of the Willis, and it's just an endless
Why did I put an
rider.
I in there? That's
He
weird.
needs watch. Apparently, he's
Tired.
obsessed with watches. He'll do a movie for a nice enough watch.
You're gonna go
Bruce
home. Your
Willis?
daughter's gonna be like the Willis.
Called timepieces.
I would not be surprised to find that.
You have a theory.
But
A Sheev theory.
I have a Sheev theory. But more, we talked about this when we did the review for The Last Jedi, and we knew that JJ was coming back, that it was always going to be very weird for that movie to sit in between two JJ Abrams movies. Because they could not be more opposite filmmakers.
Yeah.
Just fundamentally, who they are as filmmakers. JJ grew up in the generation of Spielberg. He lives that on very much. He's never strayed from that. That's who he is. He is a true Star Wars fan that is making a Star Wars movie. Rian Johnson is a film fan that made a Star Wars movie, and that's how those movies feel. He is a filmmaker that his entire work body is about commenting on tropes in films. So for those two things and JJ's the opposite of that. He is crowd pleasing. He brings you what you want. He makes you feel the things that you want to feel going into these kinds of movies. So it was always going to be weird. It's going to continue to be weird, and see how much he does fulfill what he started in The Last Jedi or not. But here's my theory about the laugh. And I said this kind of jokingly to Billy in the car, but then he was like, no, let me add to that, because apparently there are some rumors. Because, we knew that there was a rumor that Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor shot something for this movie, and that there's something people are believing that the Force ghosts are going to play in somehow. But that I was like, oh, you know what it's going to be? Star Wars: The Last Exorcism. And if I don't see some kind of Jedi priest exorcising Kylo Ren and find out he's been tainted and infected by the virus of the Emperor, I was like, that's exactly what it's going to be. And he's like, yeah, that's probably it. And I was like, I'm kidding, obviously. And he's like, no, I think that's it. That really might be something close to that. And the only way to redeem Kylo is that he's basically been suffering from an infection this whole time.
Kinda lame.
Which exactly.
That's like the midichlorianing his whole character.
Exactly.
It's like, it wasn't
exactly.
you, it was the disease.
And I
The
said,
mitochondria?
this jokingly. I said this jokingly because I'm like, ha, wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah.
And he was like, I think that might be true. And
then Luke lives inside of Rey, and then they can just sit on a log while the Force Ghost can fight.
Oh,
for the
Jesus.
finale.
So what
Okay.
you're saying is there's going to be a scene in this movie where they perform the exorcism, and then
I don't
they
think
stand
they're
over Kylo
literally
Ren,
gonna touch.
and they're like, "Are you okay, Kylo?" And he's like, "My name
And then
is
So
Ben."
and his head just starts spinning around.
that is the plot of Splinter of the Mind's Eye,
there's
the
laser
original
vomit.
novelization sequel to A New Hope, where
Is it really?
Yeah, where Luke confronts Vader and is possessed by Ben Kenobi and is literally like, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they fight each other. That is the plot of the first Star Wars novel.
Then doesn't he fall in
that
love with a
right?
spaceship,
Yeah.
or is that a different one?
That's a different one.
Okay.
I think that's book 146.
And so I'm not saying this is literally going to happen,
no.
but I feel like it's possible that they've been in this idea, like you have 1,000 generations in you. Which generations? Is it generations of Sith and generations of Jedi that are just kind of embodied in these two human
John
beings?
Malkoviching
Are
your
they
body.
John Malkoviching them? You know, so that
Left hand
so that,
on lightsaber, left hand on
that
lightsaber.
they become the
They're
physical,
arguing.
like narrowed in embodiment of these forces, so that they can balance the Force. Finally, there's a way to do it that's not as horrible as my
As long
my
as there's
joking
a
fan
shot
theory.
of like Ahsoka, dickhead, Luke Skywalker and Yoda driving her like a Megazord.
Yeah.
I think I'm super into that.
And they'll form the
By the
ponytail.
way, in order for that to work, I'm just going to keep on going on my fan theory because I'm into it.
Yeah,
in
dear.
order for that to work, they both have to die at the end. Right? Because I feel like it needs to unleash that, like, in order to create actual gray force and balance in the universe, like, all of that has to come to a head. They both have to die and sacrifice
No,
themselves.
this is called
The
Rise of the
Force-
Skywalkers. They're
that-
gonna have a bunch of little younglings
We don't
swinging
know
toy
what
lightsabers around.
No, because the Jedi, if the Jedi exist,
Broom
the
kid is
Sith
Luke.
have to exist.
It's true.
It's like the Dark Crystal, and I've said it so many times to you, Spencer.
So many times.
You almost start every meeting with
Yeah.
this. This is
Call
like
me
the
at
Dark
weird
Crystal.
hours.
It's not unlike the Dark Crystal. If you split it,
Show about our houses.
if you split into, it's the whole story of the Star Wars saga. Luke goes into the cave. It's the analogy that every human being goes through to integrate their shadow side so that it's not repressed and comes out in even
Yeah, what
even
if they have
darker
a new
ways.
generation of JIF
I've had a
Jedi
lot of
Sith
coffee.
who have a normal human amount of feelings?
Right.
That could be unstoppable.
Are you guys feeling me on this? Like, the whole point of the thing has been balancing your light and dark side as an indivial so that you can be a whole human
The whole
being.
thing was
If
about
I may.
special boys and their mean dads.
Also that.
So true. It's very true. Special boys in the mean that.
Someone out there gets what
That's
I'm
gonna
saying
be-
right now, and that one person, I fucking love you. But frolicking.
We get one. We're gonna get one.
Dance
Where's
is-
the counter? Flip it back to 0.
Yeah.
F-bomb, 0 days.
You have to call it out.
You don't have to say the F word. The problem isn't me calling it out.
It's forking, Roth.
Forking. This is all about balance. You're right. Who else is all about balance? Who else is owned by Disney? I'm just saying.
Oh.
Thanos is the emperor.
Oh,
It's not Ant-Man that's gonna go
Balance,
into
as
his
all
butt.
things should be.
I wasn't picking up what you were talking
Yeah,
down there, Dan.
exactly. No one is until now.
So who from the Star Wars universe goes into Thanos' butt?
Well, obviously it's
Boba
BB-8.
Fett.
Yaddle.
That's what the bit was.
Starlight
Okay.
Pit.
So.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Jeff.
So with the Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen rumors and getting an Emperor laugh, I think a lot of the theories will pay off in terms of like how much these movies are going to give weight to the rest of the Star Wars product line, if that makes any sense. And I think in the past, shows, cartoons, comics are going to get completely ignored by the movies. But now that everything is one big, massive, subscribe to our stuff, blah, 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 that extended canon that Disney's been pumping out since they got rid of the original extended universe might come into play more. And in Rebels, they explored the idea of how the Force actually connects the galaxy, sort of like, and characters were able to enter a realm that was almost like outside of time, where they could visit key important moments and change history and stuff like that. We might get something like that. I don't know. I think it honestly depends on how interested Disney is in paying attention to this non-film Star Wars lore.
All right, Spencer,
Yeah.
to your point, because this is I just want to call this out in the car when I named my dumb fake thing and said I was kidding. And I said, okay, I'll say it on the show now, and Spencer's going to immediately note, and he'll be right, how dumb that is. Because part of the point of Kylo Ren has been, you don't have to be possessed as a human being to be overtaken by greed and be overtaken by any number of dark impulses. But is there a way to sort of make it work within the Star Wars lore that you think also works for a character?
God, I don't know. I mean, my pet theory, or the one that I like the most, is that he's like a sleeper agent for good. You know, he's like the I guess he would be like Darth Vader at the end of the day. Is the guy who can get close to the Emperor and kill him again. So I don't think you need to have somebody else pulling your strings from the inside for that to happen. I think he could just be a conflicted person who's having to consciously repress the good in him to rise through the ranks.
Otherwise, they would pick it up with their sense.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm still brooding on the fact that they said he's not gonna pop his shirt off anymore. They said he'll be
That's
fully
just-
clothed
that's too
for the
bad.
entire
I
film.
actually hadn't heard that, and I'm leaving now.
That was
I
during
just quit the
a-
industry.
Yeah, during the talk.
But he's still got those big eyes, Spencer, you know?
He does have those dewy eyes.
Here's what I will say is, you may be right, because you're right. It's just a trailer. How many times have we seen a trailer and the movie's not like the trailer? So I will agree that it's possible that this will not be a Skywalker Emperor Fest. But at a minimum, it is Disney, I think, acknowledging through the marketing of this movie,
yes.
it is promising the exact opposite of The Last Jedi.
Agreed.
Whether or not it is, because you're right, it may be too premature to jump on and say this is going to be the opposite of The Last Jedi, but this trailer is promising, and I think it's them acknowledging the reality of what happened 2 years ago, that that this is about Skywalkers, it's about the Emperor, it's about Lando and the Falcon and TIE fighters. That is what is being marketed in this trailer, which is again the opposite.
Yeah.
Because what The Last Jedi was, and again, take away Kylo Ren kill the past, that's his perspective, fine. But the movie was, in what they did with Snoke, what they did with Rey's parents, the movie itself was, like, your fan theories aren't present here. The lineage thing is not a question here. And by making that trailer, and then by calling it The Rise of Skywalker, in a way, that's Disney saying, like, no, don't worry about that.
I mean, I think what we'll
Who's
end up
Skywalker?
getting...
Go ahead, speculate away. We're raising the question again. So yes, it may not be the opposite of The Last Jedi, but that trailer is promoting the opposite
I
of
agree.
The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing to me is, like, in so many ways, it zigged where I think a traditional Star Wars movie would have zagged a lot. But Last Jedi was, if with that comparison in mind, was also so fan servicey, like in a lot of really great ways. You had Yoda. You had Leia, you had the dice that they've tried. They're desperately trying to make a thing. I think what we're going to end up getting is more of like a spiritual promise of the rise of Skywalker and spiritually fulfilling that potential in what he started. Not necessarily that like someone's going to be like, I'm his baby girl or something like that. We might also, I don't know. I think with the Grey Jedi idea, which I know you love, and balancing that, I think if anyone else but J.J. Abrams was doing this movie, I think if Rian Johnson was still doing this movie, you would get some kind of commentary on, hey, there's no such thing as good and evil. Those are ridiculous ideas. Everyone lives within these shades of gray, and it's their choices, blah, 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 that make them at the end. But I think with J.J. Abrams, someone who, again, grew up sort of at the Amblin altar, is not going to be interested in telling that story. I think he's going to be interested in continuing that concept of grand adventure, good versus evil, rising up to the call of adventure.
Yeah. He likes to push your nostalgia buttons. He loves it. He loves it.
I love those to be pushed, I'll be honest, sometimes. But
why
I
is
would
Lando
argue,
wearing the same shirt that he wore when he was a kid? Sorry, go ahead.
I have a lot of questions about the outfits and how little they change, and how people are just like, once you choose what you wear, that's what you wear forever in this universe.
Sometimes
and
I get it.
You better make the right choice the first time you get dressed in the morning, because that's what you're wearing for the rest of your life.
If I could pull off that outfit, you're crazy if you don't think I'd be wearing that every damn day of my life. Are you kidding me? If I could pull off yellow shirt with a cape...
It's a little sad though. It's like Disco Stew at this point. He's like still wearing the 70s getup.
Disco Stew does not advertise.
I just want to note that you could probably pull videos 10 years ago, and I would be wearing this shirt, and Dan would be wearing that
I would
shirt.
definitely. Yeah. I do wear the same clothes every day.
I think that they're not that far off from us. But
Joe would be the same, but with his straight edge X's on his hands.
Joe's probably had the most notable transformation.
I'm sorry, you'd have the. What do you wear when you do ska?
Bowler hats. Bowler hats and skinny ties. Yeah. Have you not been to a ska show, man?
I love ska.
Yeah,
Ska's
man.
great.
You wear a little mod outfit. You wear a little skinny tie, a little suit.
Yeah. You drink a Zima? I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do.
Oh, it just would have been me in a mustard plug shirt.
I'm going to bring us back to The Last Jedi, because it's technically what I'm here to do. And this is what I'm going to say. I would argue that Rian Johnson's movie was also fan service. It was a different set of fans that he was satisfying, because there was an equal outcry to have Rey not be a Skywalker. There was an equal outcry.
People that thought The Force Awakens was boring and like a rehash.
Yeah.
So it's servicing the people who were like, well, I'm bored with Star Wars.
No one can ever truly be happy.
Yeah. But that's the truth, because there were people, there's one specific moment I have this theory that, so Jenny Nicholson, who we know and love, used immediately when the porgs were released, started talking about them as a food source, right? And I have this theory, because Rian Johnson, I think, really likes her work. put in Chewie eating a porg almost as a fan service to one fan.
Well, if you have like,
you have to fly back to like Gibraltar or wherever they shot the Force Islands.
I don't know.
What's your one shot you want to take to get J.J. Abrams to put it in? If you're gonna Jenny a porg.
I'm not Jenny. I don't have the power. I only have the power to bring Star Wars to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as you guys know.
That's fair.
I mean, Spider-Man. I've already unleashed all of my fan power on that one thing. I think we all get one.
Willis, so.
Book of the Willis, I think.
But this is the other thing is like, I don't know that's, I think Star Wars, JJ's a Star Wars fan. For me, Star Wars really has always fundamentally been about that idea. They have talked about balancing the Force for the I can't. The last 9 movies. There is no way that doesn't, as a Star Wars fan, for JJ just as much as it does would for any Star Wars fan, weigh in and mean something. And if you were talking about 1,000 generations being in both these people and Kylo being a secret force for good, a secret force for good could mean that he's a Sith that understands that if there are Jedi, there will also be Sith. And that
I think it ends with a double suicide.
No, I'm saying if he killed all of those up-and-coming Jedi, right?
Yeah.
And if he is a secret force for good, if there is a rise in the Jedi Order, there will also be a rise in... If there's a rise in good, there will be a rise in evil. If you are looking at it in binary terms, which from a certain point of view, the Jedi are also very twisted. But if you were looking at it in binary terms, if one rises, so will the other, you have to wipe them both out entirely at the root in order for there to actually be human balance. You cannot be either all good or all evil. No one can.
Preach.
I mean, I guess I did. Dan?
I agree with you, but that's the episode 9 that Rian Johnson would have made, where they all jump into a chasm at the end and there are no more Jedi, no more Sith. I agree with you, but I wonder if that would be the movie that JJ
Cut to
would
Teenage
make.
Broom Kid, and he's like, Journal of the Willis. Published.
All right, never mind.
Send it to the data
No,
net.
I'm not. It's not a never mind situation. I just mean like that's a great take, but I wonder if that's the movie that J.J. Abrams would make.
You think that we're just going to get a full Disney integration and it'll be Simba at the end?
I think
Possibly.
we're gonna get
Thanos
a Return
holding
of the
Simba?
Jedi-esque group shot at the end of all of our heroes together, including Force Ghosts.
I need a bigger log for them to sit on.
Happy and with some sort of final victory.
I think so. Yeah, it's not going to have a bittersweet ending.
Yes. I agree with you. The fact that it is balance, and there's no light, there's no dark without light, and vice versa. But like that's the real ending. I wonder if that's the one we'll get.
What's the JJ puzzle box in this one? Gotta be a puzzle box.
Well, it's who's Skywalker.
Yeah.
Who's the Skywalker?
What Skywalker? Who's rising?
Yeah.
Which Skywalker? Is it Luke? Is it Rey? Is she Skywalker? Did Kylo Ren lie?
Is it Kylo?
Is Kylo a Skywalker? Is he going to be Skywalker? This is. We're right back at it.
Well, Kylo is
4
a
years later,
Skywalker.
Joe. We're right back in the same place we were 4 years ago.
I started this journey long before I realized I could monetize it, Dan.
I think it's going to be the times of flat circle.
You think
Kylo
they're
is-
going
I
to
think so,
Jedi
too.
time travel? They're going to force
Kylo
project
is a
back in
Skywalker.
time?
He's
Yeah,
the
that's what I was
son.
just talking about with the weird Nexus stuff they do.
Right.
Like
God.
Rebels full on did like Star Trek Nexus from Star Trek Generations, where they revisited like weird key moments. And
So with
that-
Hayden and McGinnis redoing roles, so they'll project themselves back into the prequels.
possibly.
That's insane.
Wait,
I'm not ready for that. I don't want to go back.
Sorry, we just found weird proof that no one listened to me for 5
No,
minutes.
I
of
know.
this panel.
I knew you were talking about they can travel through the Force.
Yeah, that's literally what I was talking about. Like,
But
in,
through time, going backwards.
yeah,
in
yeah,
time?
like in Rebels, they literally like he goes into this weird like Force kind of like dimension that's like just blackness and void. And there's a Weird Owl in there. It's a whole thing. Don't worry about
So
it.
you're
Not
saying-
Weird Owl. Weird Owl.
Weird Owl.
Weird Owl.
Weird Al
Where my Weird Owl's at. And in this, you see he's connected to a Palpatine moment. It's the Ezra, the kid from Rebels. He pulls Ahsoka Tano from a key moment from a previous series and like changes her past.
They're going
basically.
like full Terminator Genesis.
Maybe. Again, I think it.
Wait,
I think
aren't we about to do that with Marvel?
Are you
Yeah.
telling me?
With the quantum realm and time
Maybe,
travel
yeah,
and
I don't know.
stuff
Are
and
you,
dimension?
are you telling me that Poe Dameron is the three-eyed raven?
Is that? I feel like,
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
I absolutely am, 100%. But again, I think it all depends on how much the movies are gonna be beholden to all the lore they're dumping on us from every which way.
I think Poe Dameron's the Hodor.
No, I'm just imagining Poe like
Hodor?
walking in.
Hodor!
Right there.
No, Poe obviously is practicing it. He's climbing on his X-ray and he sees Luke and Leia having sex, and Luke pushes him out of a window, and then he becomes Bran. That's clearly where this is headed.
Everyone watching this hates us right now.
Yeah. This is your some game, Roth.
It's true.
This is our end.
I actually like. I don't think I fully understand the math, but I like what Joe's proposing.
I don't like it.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's a possibility.
I just don't think. I don't think I fully understand. They would go back in time or go spatially travel.
Yeah, like weirdly spatially travel because like they did a full like time is a flat circle thing. So like if McGregor and Christensen film something, it might be you have the high ground and something gets changed. I don't know.
Well, my only thought, like on the Force Ghost,
Maybe someone is not on a high ground anymore. As
Why
a
would their
result.
Force Ghosts look like them? You know what I mean?
Oh no, I'm not
That's
talking about Force Ghosts. I'm
Like,
talking
they're
about
traveling back
they
to-
literally filmed the fight on Mustafar and just young them up Disney style.
Young him
Look,
up.
man, I don't like this either. I'm just saying it exists. I'm just saying it's a thing.
Yeah, if Ryan Johnson can take a force projection from the children's book, you know, they can take this from the novels.
I think you made a worse thing than my exorcism. I think you did.
Oh no, I didn't. Disney did.
I would almost
you for
lay
my
money
Camaro.
on the fact that Kylo Ren in this movie is going to say at some point, "My name is Ben."
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
100%.
I have a I don't know what if whether it's forced exorcism or not. I just have a nagging something is pulling at my
You just
Lando
know
cape,
it.
telling
Yeah.
me that I would wear if I could pull it off. That tells me that moment is going to happen.
The one thing I'm not looking forward to is people just going full on like, oh yeah, you brought Luke back because you know you screwed up, and ignoring the fact that like everyone comes back as ghosts
Yeah. He was
all the
always gonna
time
come
and
all the
stuff.
time.
Like, yeah, there was no way that guy was done. Like, there's no way. Yeah.
I did not see that part of Rebels, and now I'm going to go back and catch up just so that I can come back to the tape here and follow along accordingly. What's interesting to me is that at the beginning of this, we said, well, we're not going to speculate too much about the movie, and we've spent 26
Yup.
minutes speculating about the movie
It
based
wasn't
on...
serious speculation.
No, it wasn't. Mine was. Some of it.
yours,
Not
yes.
the exorcism, but the part about, to me, if you leave this movie with the idea that there is a definitive good and a definitive evil, and that is how the universe works, and that was balancing the Force, was getting rid of the Sith, like, that's so broken. That's so not what Star Wars is to me, and has never been.
We'll see.
But we'll see.
I'm just glad we got sand skiffs. Skiffs
Yeah.
in Star Wars are
Lots of skiffs.
that's an important thing.
But I thought, but the trailer looked great. Well done, Trailer House.
Yeah.
Star Wars is also going to take a hiatus. This is via IGN. So this is interesting. We've talked about how many Star Wars can we stand. Bob Iger is asking the same question, apparently, because he did talk about after the release of this film and the conclusion of the Skywalker saga, they were going to take a little pause and reset and figure out what they want to do with Star Wars moving forward, which I think is great, right?
Well,
Yes,
yeah, the movies
they
at
needs
least.
it.
Yeah, the
They're,
movies.
they're
Yeah.
not
Well,
stopping
not
on
the
anything
shows.
else. Yeah,
Yeah.
the shows, the games, the live action experiences. You know,
The lands.
whatever the
Live
Galaxy's
action
Edge. You know,
experiences.
get in line now.
Well, we've always said at this table, I know you say it all the time, like, these need to feel special.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, there should not be a Star Wars movie every 6 months. They're not Marvel. They're not DC movies. Like, along with the once in a generation that the movies try to do, like, that's how the release of the movies should feel.
Yeah, agreed. Well done by Bob Iger and Trailer House once again. Screen Junkies News, I have a little announcement for us.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is going to come as a huge shock to you guys because you have no idea about this. Yeah.
What?
No, you do. Screen Junkies News, the channel you are currently watching, thank you for watching us and supporting us for all of these years, is staying right here, but it's going to have a slightly different name. The name is going to be Fandom Entertainment. It's still going to have all of the shows. SJU, charting will be here, reviews will be here. We will have weekend special videos like Panel to Screen and Evolution of the Hulk, which we released a couple of weeks ago. All of that stuff will still be here and more, and it will just have a slightly different name. I don't know how, like, if that will even be noticed, but now you know.
Because this show's name is staying the same.
This show
We're not
is
calling
still,
it Fandom Universe for
which
obvious
I
acronym
did
purposes.
pitch. No, I pitched FU a number of times,
Damn.
and corporate wasn't for it.
That's fair.
And I just said that I thought it was perfectly on brand for us, and that I was not agreed with in this
imagine
matter.
just the FU
Yeah.
just slowly rotating around.
I know! It's so perfect for us. But
Dang.
So good.
no. We will remain SJU, but we will be on Fandom Entertainment with lots of other Fandom Entertainment content, including, well, most of the stuff that you already watched. And I hope you continue to watch.
All right.
Yeah,
Hit
that's
the
happening.
bells. Bells.
Ring the bells.
Oh, right. I'm supposed to say that thing. In fact, Joe, say that thing.
Hit them bells.
So you have to like hit a bell and subscribe so that you get updates. We have this show every day with multiple stories, including the one that I'm going to do now about Disney, and it's complete seeming death shot at this price point at Netflix, plus all the other things that they revealed about Disney Plus. This is via THR and everywhere in the world yesterday. At Celebration, they announced a lot of its content coming to the Disney Plus service in November. It includes things that we knew were in development, like the MCU characters, the Winter Soldier, Falcon and Loki. We know about the Scarlet Witch Vision movie, which someone pointed out to me. Like, I don't remember if we did the pitches. I did a pitch on Vision and Scarlet Witch, and they were like, "Oh, it sounds like your pitch," which it does, only in that it's Vision and Scarlet Witch, and
Right.
it supposedly gets really weird. But I'm still gonna pull that up, and if it is, I'll feel excited, and that's all I can do about
Saying
that.
Marvel is continuing to steal not only your casting decisions, but now your ideas.
You know, I just think I just think that I'm secretly running the MCU.
Maybe
I
not
think
so.
it's almost like
Secret's out.
I think it's like
Secret's
the
out, man.
Matrix or like the Last Starfighter, where like you're actually, or I guess what was the one where you're actually fighting a war and you think you're playing a video game?
Ender.
Ender's
Game. Yeah, like I'm secretly Feige.
Whoa.
Whoa.
The
I
body
do
cannot
not
exist
think
without
that
the
at
Roth.
all.
That
Just
hat is a
before
mind
you-
control device.
Before you yell at me for being an egomaniac, there's no part of me that even remotely believes that to be true.
Take off the hat. He doesn't know where he's been for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
What happened?
But I also, maybe I'm John Malkoviching Feige.
Guys, are we wrapped on Elektra?
But I don't know it.
I wrapped on Elektra. Then this little woman put this hat on me, and now I'm.
How did Ghost Rider do? How did Ghost Rider do? I don't know if he produced Ghost
Also,
Rider.
where's my
I'm gonna assume
family?
that he did.
But also, how did Ghost Rider do?
He definitely did not do that. Okay. So the slate includes all of these series, which also, this is interesting. They're taking from the Fox shows. They're taking The Simpsons.
Yeah.
All of The Simpsons is going there. The Mandalorian, obviously, the Star Wars series is going there. But here's something.
That's great.
Can I pause and just say something that I hope is exciting to Dan? Because it was exciting to me. They took a small Fox film that we both loved, and they're making a show out of it. Love, Simon.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I hope it's good.
Yeah, I hope it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the movie's really good, and you should
The movie's
check it
great.
out. So the
I just hope they acknowledge it in episode 9.
Yeah,
Like, if you're gonna build the lore, use the lore.
Yeah.
Simpsons.
Great.
Great.
Pro.
Did you like that promo?
What, the welcome synergy?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the pro. I just saw that freeze frame. I thought
Okay.
That was cute.
I think it says Billy put in the script, ask Dan for his thoughts. I think it's because I was split on it because I thought it was funny, but also like I'm young enough to remember The Simpsons, like they partially, like part of the subversion, like the subversive nature of The Simpsons, even going to the movie, was them just like constantly taking the piss out of Disney. Just like always,
And Fox, though.
Yeah, and Fox, I agree. But like they always were just kind of always jabbing Disney in the ribs a little bit because they could. So like it was like 80% funny for me, and like 20% super weird for them to be like, yes, definitely in a very self-humorous and acknowledging way, but also being like, we're now on Disney Plus. It's like, I remember when you were like, like Bart pops down from the train and says like, I'm the mascot of an evil corporation. And now it's like, and now
When they go
own
to
you.
Itchy and Scratchy Land. I guess that's more of a Westworld parody. But yeah, look, The Simpsons don't have a call on where they're going. They're cartoons.
I know. I'm just saying it's weird to arrive at this destination, having been on the journey with The Simpsons for so long and seeing how they were always like very sort of corporate averse in a weird way, particularly in the early years. And they would make fun of Fox of just mercilessly for their programming, and they were always poking Disney's ribs. And now they're sort of like doing that, but also having to acknowledge that they are also like, you can find us now on Disney Plus. It's like, okay.
I wonder if they would continue to poke the bear a little bit. I do like I do like it when people poke the bear of their corporate entities. John Oliver does that a fair bit about AT&T. Yeah.
His money daddy. What does he call
Yeah,
it?
Money Daddy.
Yeah.
Netflix. Okay, let's talk about the price point, because this is the most hilarious part to me. Like, I care about the on-screen stuff, but this is so much more fun for me to watch.
$69.99, baby.
Basically, the way that
Tight.
I think about the streaming wars right now is that it's the Real Housewives, and Disney just threw a glass of wine in Netflix's face, and I am here for it. So their price point is $6.99 a month. That's half of what Netflix is currently charging. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, we have Apple coming up as well and things like that. Billy and I were talking about, people are saying, well, people just pay for both. But for a lot of families, it's going to be a choice between one or the other. And they kept emphasizing at this panel, like, and our stuff is permanent. It's going to stay there. Well, why are they emphasizing that? Yes, because the vault has come and gone. But it's really because maybe something shows up on Netflix, maybe you love it, and then it goes away the very next month, has been the pattern. And then also a TV show shows up on Netflix. Maybe you have any idea what it is. Maybe you don't. But on Disney, you're going to have all of these things that you're familiar with, the Disney brand. They are really, really, really driving at them. And this technique is so out of the Amazon playbook, where they make a price point that is that their competitors cannot meet, and they basically undercharge.
This is diapers.com again.
It's diapers.com. Undercharge in order to drive the other business out and then raise the price again. Anyway, that's my Machiavellian take on yesterday's fun panel.
Oh, that's accurate. It's not Machiavellian. It's accurate.
Thoughts?
Yes. It may turn out that Netflix's plan of heedlessly throwing billions of dollars into their business might turn out to be a bit of a problem.
Well, the hard part for Netflix, I'm not like, Netflix is obviously, because we're going to get the people that yell at us about Netflix. Netflix is obviously positioned well right now. It makes a lot of money, but it's also at full saturation in North America. It's in 199 countries in the world. The avenues for growth are limited. More and more licenses are being pulled away. More and more competing services are coming. Yes, they're not all global right now, but they are in the process of working on that. And add to that, they don't have supplemental revenue streams. Amazon is going to be selling you diapers forever.
Oh, yeah.
They just hit $1 trillion.
Apple's selling you whatevers, and Disney is selling you the Dole Whips.
Yeah.
So they all have kind of these pressure release valves if this isn't instantly profitable. So oddly, and then I guess they now own Hulu and are going to like maybe be bundling it with Disney Plus and stuff like that. So does Netflix surprisingly to me seems like the odd man out.
Totally is.
I think Apple's the odd man out. Apple is adrift. They're on an island, because it's not even like the stuff they unveiled was stuff that people were like, ooh,
Right.
Like there's like, okay, weird Jason Momoa blind show and Oprah
Doing something?
okay.
Yeah.
Like that, I think Apple is definitely the one. As weird as strangely positioned as they were before, now even more so. It's like, who is going to pay for that?
I feel like
People who buy Apple stuff.
Yeah, and
It's old.
Yeah. Oh, it just
I'll
shows
be
up like a
watching Disney
YouTube,
Plus
like
on
a
my
YouTube
Apple
album.
TV. I guess.
I feel like I don't know.
They're happy with that too, though.
The streaming war so far, because this is so well timed, because I feel like the streaming war so far has been well timed for them. Not like, oh man, we needed this, but it's purely like nasty business strategy, like chef kisses. Because I feel like streaming has been kind of like this very cautious Jenga thing, where it's like, hey, here's our offerings and here's our offerings, but no one's really been like, now choose. You know, everyone's kind of been, you know, eyeballing each other and sniffing each other's butts, but mostly coexisting. And now Disney comes in and they're like, look at all this crap for $6. We're not playing Jenga anymore. And like have just kicked the game off the table completely. And they're like, now you play in Disney's game. And Apple is coming in an hour after that. Like, hey, are we still playing Jenga? Like, this was so brutally well timed.
Yes, it was.
Like, this is definitely I don't even think, looking at this, like, I don't even think there's been a streaming war yet, because for the most part, no one has had to be like, am I going to do Netflix or CBS All Access? I just don't know. Everyone has Hulu and Netflix for the most part. Like, but this is the one that's going to come in and be like, look at all this insane content. You get it for nothing. Choose.
Yeah, exactly. It's not you're right. It hasn't been a streaming war. It's been a streaming skirmish. And they just came in like Indy with the gun and we're like, oh, fucking
Yeah.
frolic.
You. Yep. You said, you didn't say the whole word. I didn't hear the K.
I said frolic.
Yep, there's a
with
K.
whip. There was not a K. Okay, let's
15
just
minutes. Roll the counter back.
Let's not litigate this right now. Let's not litigate this. Spencer?
Yes. Oh, I'll be. I was surprised at how much of a mental difference 69 makes to me than like $9.99. I don't know why that seems so cheap because, you know, there's no real material quality of life difference for most people if you're paying $9.99, maybe even up to $12.99 or. Let's be honest, $7. But that just sounds so cheap.
Yes.
It sounds like nothing. I'm like, well, of course, that's like 2 coffees.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's like what Apple did with MP3s or books or whatever, and they're like, everything's 99 cents.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's cheap enough that I might as well buy it instead of stealing it.
And then you buy a lot.
And then you end up buying a lot.
Yeah. Well, what Apple did at their conference that I think is interesting is that they didn't announce a price point yet for their service, except for the magazine bundle, or like the news service that they offered. So I would be curious to see how they respond to this. But it's very clear
Buying Disney.
Disney is they probably not like. They were worth $1 trillion until 3 months ago, and it's gone down, I think, to $750 billion, which is still not nothing. But Amazon is at $1 trillion now, hit $1 trillion this year, and I think Disney is clearly well below that, and as is Netflix, which I would fact check it if Billy's here, but he's not, so we'll circle back at some point.
You know what? At this point, anytime we talk about business, I'm like, yeah, but I'm also like, nothing makes any sense to me now. Like, look at giant company Uber, and then it's like Uber loses $8 billion a year or something
They'll
like that.
never be profitable.
And you're like, I don't understand how any of this works. Really, ultimately, I'm a dummy who really just wants to talk about lightsabers. But it fully seems like Disney's just going to run this at a loss until everyone's dead, and then.
Everyone on the planet.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I mean,
It'll be
the snap.
Wall-E. You're
Yeah.
saying Disney Plus is Wall-E. It'll be the last sentient thing left on the planet.
No, absolutely. I think they have a 10-year scorched earth plan where they're going to lose so much money paying Jeremy Renner to do an Archer show until just no one is alive and everyone's dead, and then a robotic Mickey steps on a skull, and John Connor goes back in time. Like, that's how this works.
I think you nailed it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's how this does work.
But it's the only way
With the
Disney.
help of the Force
it's
Owl.
literally the only way Disney survives because looking into that Mickey apocalypse future, everyone is streaming, and if you are beholden to Netflix or Amazon or Apple to actually deliver what you make to people, like you're screwed.
Yeah.
So they need to control, tip to tail, the snout to butt,
Yes.
every part of the process.
We've done a lot of butt talks today.
Every part of the pig, Disney needs to control. So it's either this or die.
It's Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. Yeah, you
It
don't
is.
want to be a family beholden to the Lannisters. You
No.
want to be the Lannisters.
And it is Game of Thrones. Thank you for the segue. And you've proposed the ending that I propose of Game of Thrones very closely with the Mickey skull. In our preview episode of Game of Thrones, Watching Thrones,
segue.
which is going to air today on the main channel.
Nice.
And it's the Watching Thrones participants. That's myself, Spencer, Michelle Boyd. Thank God Hal is there. It's going to be great. Dan Murrell, final thoughts on who's going to win the streaming war, and then say a thing that you're looking forward to this week.
Well, obviously Game of Thrones coming back. I'm very excited. Rewatch was officially finished as of last night. My full rewatch. You can watch the Cram It on the Screen Junkies channel if you still need time. We can get you the whole series in less than an hour. There's a Targaryen thing, but don't worry, we corrected it in the comments.
It's a small Targaryen thing because
Targaryen
you said the right name the first time.
I did. We say it right in one part, and I said it wrong in another part. So
There's a lot of
apologies.
Targaryens.
There's some high garden loot issues, and
It's fine. George R. R. Martin changes the color of several people's eyes in the book.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't see them yelling at him. Well, no, they do yell at him.
Yeah, no, that's not true.
So yeah, I'm super pumped for Game of Thrones, and this is all crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I will be interested to look back in 10 years and see what the landscape looks like, and to know that we were it feels like living in the time like when cable was first, because I was a little too young to remember that, but when cable was first emerging and the big networks were just starting to be challenged, and how that all went out and shook out, like it feels like this is an even bigger sea change. This could even be like a new almost like a new medium is being introduced. So it's super weird and crazy, and we'll see what happens.
It's fun to watch. So is Game of Thrones. So is our Cram It. You should watch that. By the way, it's impossible to track. Well, some people can do it, but it's very difficult to track all of the Game of Thrones lore and names and things all the time.
Sure.
Except for Spencer, who's the one that we count on every week on Watching Thrones to keep us fully on track with the lore and to be totally accurate and not get anything wrong. If anything is wrong, I would just blame it on Spencer. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
I can be the scapegoat for that. I have no problems.
Good. Watching Thrones will be back on Monday at 11 a.m. We'll be talking about the premiere episode, which I'm very excited about, which is airing this Sunday. All of the Watching Thrones things, we are now Fandom Entertainment. So I guess I'll never be able to really call us this as a show, but F you!
Oh, is that your sign off?
I guess.
I'm sure they love it.
F you.